A very happy and very healthy 2021 to you, everyone. I promised you last year that we would revisit this beautiful, beautiful case that I can certainly consider one of the jewels in the crown here at the National Heisey Glass Museum. We're fortunate to have a number of jewels in our crown, but I think this is a perfect one to start the new year off with. I'm Jack Burris, I'm the director here, and today again we have Nathan Hood behind the camera. So let's dive into the story of this beautiful, beautiful frame. The story of this beautiful cabinet begins with the Landon Frame. This story begins with the 1936 presidential campaign of the Republican Alf Landon. Wilson Heisey, who was then president of the Heisey Company, was chairman of the Ohio Landon effort. Landon was running for president. Prior to the Republican convention, Wilson Heisey enlisted Mr. Krall to engrave a large mirror frame to hold Alf Landon's picture at the National Republican Convention that year. The year was 1936. According to Krall's own account, he traveled to Topeka, Kansas to obtain a likeness of Landon, and then engraved a portrait of him for the top oval of the frame. According to Krall, it took 4 weeks, totaling some 480 hours to complete the project. The frame was of mirrors engraved with buckeyes and leaves, which were symbols of Ohio, and sunflowers, which were the state flower of Kansas, Landon's home. Once completed, Mr. Krall's son shared that it took several hours to assemble the cut pieces onto the 79-inch by 48-inch frame, the large size befitting the prominent site in which it was displayed at the convention. The convention that year was held at the Hollington Hotel in Cleveland, Ohio. The frame was to have been presented to Landon after he won the election for president that year. However, Landon lost the election, and the frame was returned to Newark and placed in storage at the Heisey factory. According to the HCA archives, in late 1936, the Heisey Company was making plans for a promotional tour of major department stores of the Northeast and Midwest, including the J.L. Hudson Company, whose flagship store was in Detroit, Michigan. The tour was to feature the cuttings and engravings of master artist Emil Krall. Hudson agreed to share half of the expenses of Krall's appearance, which amounted to $100 weekly. In December 1936, Krall himself designed a shadow box cabinet that could be entered from the rear. This cabinet was to display the Landon frame. It was crafted at the wood shop at the Heisey factory. The shelves were glass, and cut Heisey candlesticks were used as supports for those shelves. The center medallion was replaced by Krall with an engraving of the Santa Maria in full sail. The frame was fixed onto the front of the mirrored cabinet. Special lighting systems surrounded the inside of the frame. The cabinet went on display, showing special works of art by Krall, most of which were one of a kind and only obtainable by special order. The cabinets and its contents were insured for $15,000, a very large sum of money in the midst of the Depression. Newspaper accounts made much of the insurance, and the resulting publicity played up the value of all the glass that was displayed. During one of the trips, the frame apparently slipped off a handcart while it was being unloaded, and it was broken. Mr. Krall designed new mirrors and engravings of flowers for the sides of the cabinets. And the engravings were done on glass, then later mirrored, silvered. According to the late Tim Heisey, several of the items on display in the cabinet were stolen at a stop in Chicago and never recovered. One of the last public appearances of this cabinet under the direction of the Heisey Company was in March 1939, when, in conjunction with the Newark Chamber of Commerce, Miss Atkins did a display entitled Alfred M. Landon Showcase. The display was here in Newark and included many one-of-a-kind pieces from the Heisey Glass archives. The long story that brought this cabinet back to us. When the Heisey cabinet closed, the cabinet was sold among the contents of the factory. And Percy Moore purchased this cabinet in sometime around 1957 or early 1958. And it was featured in his antique shop on Route 40 in Kirkersville, Ohio, until it was sold to a collector who moved it to Texas. In the early 1970s, the owners returned the cabinet to Newark and offered it for sale. However, they were unable to reach a satisfactory sales agreement, and the cabinet was returned to its home in Texas. The cabinet was offered to the National Heisey Glass Museum in the summer of 2011 and was subsequently acquired, restored, and put on display at the museum. And we are very, very happy to have it. Photos really don't do this cabinet justice. The artistry that's displayed in the detail of the cutting, not only of the cabinet, but of the pieces that are displayed, are really something you need to see for yourself. So, at the start of this new year, I again invite you to visit our beautiful National Heisey Glass Museum here in Newark, Ohio. And myself and all the staff will very much look forward to greeting you and welcoming you and answering your questions. Happy New Year.